Episode 14, The Most Important Decision of My Life. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our A to English podcast. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me once again. Today's episode is one of the longest and most meaningful stories in our A2 series. The title of today's episode is The Most Important Decision of My Life. Every person makes hundreds of decisions every day. Some decisions are small. We decide what to eat. We decide what clothes to wear. We decide when to wake up. These choices are simple. However, some decisions are much more important. One decision can change our future. One decision can change the people we meet. One decision can completely change our lives. Today's story is about one of those decisions. It happened several years ago. At that time, my life was very different. I was living in a small apartment. Every morning, I woke up early. I went to work. I returned home in the evening. Then I watched television or used my phone for several hours. Every day looked exactly the same. I was not unhappy, but I was not excited either. I felt that something was missing. Sometimes I asked myself, is this how I want to live for the next 10 years? I never found a good answer. One evening, after finishing work, I sat alone in my room. The room was quiet. Only the sound of the clock could be heard. Tick, tick, tick. I looked around. My books were covered with dust. My notebook was empty. My guitar was resting in the corner of the room. Months had passed since I had played it. I suddenly realized something. I was spending my time, but I was not building my future. That thought stayed in my mind all night. The next morning, everything seemed normal again. I went to work. I greeted my coworkers. I completed my tasks. I smiled. I talked with everyone. But deep inside, I kept thinking about my future. During lunch, my friend Daniel sat beside me. He noticed that I was unusually quiet. He asked, "Is everything okay?" I smiled. "Yes, I think so." He looked at me carefully. "I don't believe you." I laughed. "Is it that obvious?" He nodded. Then I told him everything. I explained that I felt stuck. Every day was becoming the same. I wanted to improve my life. I wanted to learn new skills. I wanted to become a better version of myself. But I did not know where to begin. Daniel listened carefully. He did not interrupt me. After I finished speaking, he asked only one question. "What do you really want?" His question surprised me. Nobody had ever asked me that before. I thought for several seconds. Finally, I answered, "I want to become someone who never stops learning." Daniel smiled. "Then why aren't you learning?" His answer was simple. Very simple. But it was exactly what I needed to hear. That evening, instead of watching television, I opened my old notebook. The first page was completely blank. I picked up a pen. For several minutes, I stared at the empty page. Then I wrote one sentence. "My life will change when my daily habits change." I looked at those words again and again. They felt powerful. Then I wrote another question. Who do I want to become in 5 years? I did not write about money. I did not write about cars. I did not write about expensive houses. Instead, I wrote this. I want to become someone who reads every day. I want to become someone who speaks English confidently. I want to become someone who's healthy. I want to become someone who helps other people. I want to become someone who never stops growing. When I finished writing, I felt different. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. The following morning, I woke up 30 minutes earlier than usual. Instead of checking social media, I opened a book. At first, I read only 5 pages. That was all. It was not difficult. The next day, I read another 5 pages. The day after that, I learned 10 new English words. The next day, I listened to an English podcast while walking to work. The changes were very small. In fact, nobody noticed them. My family did not notice. My coworkers did not notice. Even my friends did not notice, but I noticed. Every evening, I felt a little better than the day before. After 1 week, I had finished my first book. After 2 weeks, I had learned more than 100 new English words. After 1 month, reading had become a habit. I no longer forced myself to do it. I actually looked forward to it. One afternoon, Daniel asked, "So ... how is your new plan going?" I smiled. "It isn't easy, but I'm finally moving forward." He laughed. "That's all that matters." Several months passed. My daily routine became completely different. I woke up earlier. I exercised every morning. I studied English every evening. I spent less time scrolling through my phone. I spent more time reading books. I also began writing in a journal every night. Before sleeping, I answered 3 simple questions. What did I learn today? What did I do well today? What can I improve tomorrow? Those 3 questions slowly changed the way I thought. Instead of focusing on my mistakes, I focused on progress. Instead of comparing myself with other people, I compared myself with yesterday's version of me. One Saturday morning, while I was reading in a cafe, an elderly woman sat at the table next to mine. She noticed the English book in my hands. She smiled and asked, "Are you learning English?" "Yes," I replied. "I've been studying every day." She looked pleased. Then she said something I have never forgotten. "Knowledge is one thing that nobody can ever steal from you." I repeated her words quietly. "Knowledge is one thing that nobody can ever steal from you." Those words stayed with me for a long time. That afternoon, I wrote them in my notebook. They became one of my favorite quotes. Little by little, my confidence began to grow. I noticed that I was speaking English more comfortably. Reading became easier. Listening became less difficult. Most importantly, I no longer felt that my life was standing still. I felt that I was finally moving toward the person I wanted to become. But then, something unexpected happened. One phone call changed everything once again. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just finished reading a chapter from my English book. I closed the book and was about to prepare dinner when my phone started ringing. The caller was my uncle. He rarely called me, so I answered immediately. "Hello." His voice sounded warm but serious. "How are you?" "I'm doing well," I replied. "How about you?" "I'm fine," he said. "Can we meet tomorrow? I have something important to discuss with you." I became curious. Of course. The next afternoon, we met in a small cafe near the city center. He arrived before me. When I walked inside, he was already drinking coffee and reading a newspaper. He smiled when he saw me. After talking for a few minutes about our families and daily life, he looked at me and asked, "So, what have you been doing recently?" I told him everything. I explained how I had changed my daily habits. I told him about reading books every day. I explained that I was studying English every evening. I also mentioned that I had started exercising regularly. He listened carefully. Then he smiled proudly. "I'm happy to hear that," he said. "Many people complain about their lives. Very few people actually change them." His words made me feel proud. Then he placed a small notebook on the table. "I want to show you something." The notebook looked old. Its cover was worn, and its pages had turned yellow over the years. He opened the first page. It contained a list of goals written by hand. "I wrote these goals 20 years ago," he said. I looked at the page carefully. Some goals had small check marks beside them. Others did not. He noticed my curiosity. I didn't achieve every goal, he admitted, but writing them changed the way I lived. He pointed to one sentence, "Read every day." He laughed softly. "I have followed this habit for more than 20 years. Then he pointed to another goal. "Learn something new every year." I've learned photography, cooking, gardening, and even another language. I looked at him with admiration. I had always respected my uncle. Now I understood one of the reasons for his success. It wasn't luck. It was consistency. He closed the notebook. Then he looked directly into my eyes. Can I give you one piece of advice? Of course. He smiled. Never become satisfied with yesterday's success. I repeated his words silently. Never become satisfied with yesterday's success. He continued. Celebrate your progress. Be proud of yourself, but never stop improving. We talked for almost 2 hours. Before leaving, he gave me the notebook. I was surprised. I can't take this. It's yours. He smiled. It helped me. Now I hope it helps you. I accepted the gift with gratitude. That evening, I carefully read every page. Some pages contained goals. Others contained mistakes he had learned from. During my lunch break, I listened to English podcasts. On my way home, I practiced speaking English by describing everything I saw around me. Sometimes people looked at me strangely because I was quietly talking to myself. But I didn't care. I knew I was improving. Every evening, I learned something new. Sometimes I studied grammar. Sometimes I watched educational videos. Sometimes I simply read another chapter from a good book. One day, while I was walking home, I met my old school friend Alex. We had not seen each other for almost 3 years. He looked surprised. You've changed. I smiled. What do you mean? You seem more confident. You smile more. You even walk differently. His words surprised me. I had noticed changes inside myself, but I didn't realize that other people could see them too. We decided to sit together in a nearby park. We talked about life for almost an hour. Finally, he asked, "What's your secret?" I laughed. There isn't one. I simply started improving one small habit every day. He looked disappointed. That's all. I nodded. Yes. People often look for complicated answers, but most success comes from simple habits repeated every day. He became quiet. Then he smiled. I think I need to start doing that too. A few days later, Alex sent me a message. He wrote, I read my first book in years today. That simple message made me very happy. Perhaps my habits were beginning to inspire other people. A few months passed. Life was not perfect. Some days I felt tired. Some days I wanted to skip studying. Some mornings I wanted to sleep longer. There were days when I made mistakes. There were days when I felt discouraged. But I remembered something my uncle had said. Never become satisfied with yesterday's success. So I continued. Even on difficult days, I tried to do something small. Sometimes I studied for only 10 minutes. Sometimes I read only 2 pages. Sometimes I learned only one new English word. But I never stopped completely. That became my greatest strength. One evening, while reviewing my journal, I noticed something incredible. The person who had written the first page several months earlier was no longer the same person. I was thinking differently, speaking differently, living differently. I smiled. Real change had happened slowly, so slowly that I almost didn't notice it. Then, one unexpected opportunity arrived, an opportunity that would test everything I had learned. It was a Monday morning. I had just arrived at work when my manager called me into his office. I knocked on the door. Come in, he said. I walked inside. He smiled and asked me to sit down. There is something I would like to discuss with you. I listened carefully. Our company is going to welcome an international visitor next month. He continued. The visitor speaks English. We need someone who can communicate with him during his visit. For a moment, I did not know what to say. My heart started beating faster. English. Speaking with a real international visitor. I had practiced English every day. I had listened to podcasts. I had read books. I had spoken to myself. But I had never had a long conversation with a native English speaker. My manager looked at me. I know you have been studying English. I've noticed your progress. I think you can do it. His confidence surprised me. To be honest, I was afraid. Many questions immediately appeared in my mind. What if I forget words? What if I don't understand his accent? What if I make mistakes? For a few seconds, fear tried to control my thoughts. Then I remembered something. Months earlier, I had made an important decision. I had promised myself that I would never let fear stop me from learning. So I smiled and answered, "I'll do my best." My manager nodded. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. From that day, I prepared more seriously than ever before. Every evening, I practiced speaking English. I watched interviews. I learned business vocabulary. I reviewed common questions. I even practiced introducing myself in front of a mirror. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I forgot simple words. Instead of becoming frustrated, I corrected my mistakes and continued. Every mistake became another lesson. One evening, while I was practicing, my younger brother entered my room. He laughed. "Who are you talking to?" I smiled. "My future." He looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I'm practicing English. I don't want fear to win." He nodded slowly. "I hope one day I can speak English like you." I laughed. "I'm still learning." We all are. The days passed quickly. Finally, the important day arrived. Everyone at the office looked busy. People were preparing meeting rooms. Some employees were arranging documents. Others were checking presentation equipment. I reviewed my notebook one final time. Then I closed it. I took a deep breath. About 30 minutes later, the visitor arrived. He was a friendly man from Canada. He smiled as he entered the office. My manager introduced us. "This is Ahmed. He'll be helping you today." The visitor shook my hand. "Nice to meet you." I smiled confidently. "Nice to meet you too. Welcome to our company." Those simple words immediately made me feel more relaxed. We started talking. At first, I spoke slowly. I carefully chose every word. Sometimes I paused for a second before answering. The visitor noticed my nervousness. He smiled kindly. "Take your time," he said. "Your English is very good." Hearing those words changed everything. Suddenly, I became much more comfortable. Our conversation became easier. We talked about our work. We talked about our countries. We talked about food, culture, sports, and education. He asked me, "Why did you decide to learn English?" I smiled. Then I answered honestly, "Because I wanted more opportunities. I wanted to communicate with people from different countries. I wanted to continue learning throughout my life." He nodded with respect. "That's an excellent reason." The conversation lasted almost 2 hours. Of course, I made a few grammar mistakes. Sometimes I needed extra time to remember a word. But something important happened. I never stopped speaking. Months earlier, I would have been too afraid even to try. Now, I continued talking with confidence. When the meeting ended, the visitor thanked me. He said, "You have excellent communication skills, and your English will become even better if you keep practicing." Those words made me extremely happy. After he left, my manager came to me. He smiled proudly. "You did an excellent job." "Thank you," I replied. I was nervous. He laughed. "I know, but courage doesn't mean you aren't afraid. Courage means you continue even when you are afraid." I never forgot those words. That evening, I walked home with a huge smile. The city looked different. The streets looked brighter. The future suddenly felt much closer. I realized something very important. The opportunity had not appeared because I was lucky. It had appeared because I had been preparing for months. Every page I had read ... Every podcast I had listened to. Every English sentence I had practiced ... Every morning I had chosen discipline instead of comfort. All of those small actions had prepared me for that single opportunity. Success had not arrived in one day. It had been built one habit at a time, one decision at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 page at a time, 1 English word at a time. And I finally understood a powerful truth. Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. That realization completely changed the way I looked at life. And yet, the greatest lesson was still waiting for me. A few weeks after the meeting with the international visitor, I received another email. This time, it came from the visitor himself. I smiled as soon as I saw his name. I opened the message. It began with a simple greeting. Hello, Ahmed. I hope you are doing well. Then he wrote something I never expected. I was impressed by your attitude during our meeting. You were honest. You were prepared. You were not afraid to admit when you needed a moment to think. These qualities are more valuable than perfect grammar. I read the message twice. Then I continued reading. Our company is organizing an international online training program next month. Our company is organizing an international online training program next month. We would like to invite you to participate. For a moment, I simply stared at the screen. I could hardly believe what I was reading. Several months earlier, I had been afraid to speak even one complete sentence in English. Now someone from another country was inviting me to join an international program. I accepted the invitation immediately. During the following weeks, I prepared carefully. The program included people from many different countries. Some participants came from Canada. Others came from Germany, Brazil, India, Japan, Kenya, and Australia. Everyone had a different background. Everyone had a different story. But we all shared one goal. We wanted to learn. On the first day of the program, I felt nervous again. There were more than 50 participants. The instructor welcomed everyone. Then he asked each person to introduce themselves. When my turn came, I took a deep breath. I smiled. Then I said, "Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed. I enjoy learning new skills. I believe that education can change lives. I'm happy to be here, and I hope to learn from all of you." When I finished, everyone smiled. Several people wrote kind messages in the chat. "Welcome, Ahmed. Nice to meet you. Good luck." Their kindness made me feel comfortable. During the following days, we worked together on different projects. Sometimes we solved problems in small groups. Sometimes we shared ideas. Sometimes we simply talked about our cultures and daily lives. Every conversation improved my confidence. Every activity taught me something new. One evening, the instructor asked an interesting question. "What is the best decision you have ever made?" Everyone answered differently. One person said, "Moving to another country." Another person said, "Starting my own business." Someone else said, "Returning to university." When my turn arrived, I smiled. Then I answered, "The best decision I have ever made was deciding to improve myself a little every day." The instructor smiled. "Could you explain?" I nodded. I used to think that success happened suddenly. I believed successful people were simply lucky. But I discovered something different. I learned that success grows from small daily habits. Reading 10 pages. Learning 5 new words. Exercising for 20 minutes. Being kind to people. Showing up every day. Those small actions changed my life. The room became quiet. Several people nodded. After the session ended, one participant sent me a private message. He wrote, "Your answer inspired me. I've been waiting for the perfect time to improve my English. I think today is the day I finally begin." I smiled. Months earlier, another person had inspired me. Now my story had inspired someone else. That was a wonderful feeling. When the training program finally ended, every participant received a certificate. Of course, I was happy to receive mine. But something else made me even happier. I had gained confidence. I had made friends from different countries. I had discovered that communication is more important than perfection. English had become more than just a language. It had become a bridge to new people, a bridge to new opportunities, a bridge to a better future. That evening, I returned home and opened the old notebook my uncle had given me. I turned to the very first page. Then I smiled. Next to the old goals, I added one final sentence. The most important decision of my life was deciding not to stay the same. I closed the notebook. I looked out of the window. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and gold. Everything looked peaceful. I realized that life had not changed overnight. It had changed because of hundreds of small decisions. Every morning I chose to wake up early. Every evening I chose to study instead of wasting time. Every day I chose progress instead of excuses. Those choices created a new future. Perhaps you are listening to this podcast today because you also want to improve your English. Maybe you sometimes feel that progress is slow. Maybe you think you are making too many mistakes. Maybe you compare yourself with people who speak better than you. If that is true, I want to tell you something. Do not give up. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner. Every expert was once a student. Every success story started with one small decision. Your English does not need to be perfect today. It only needs to be a little better than yesterday. Keep reading. Keep listening. Keep speaking. Keep making mistakes. Because every mistake teaches you something new. One day, you will look back and realize how far you have come. You will remember the words that seemed impossible. You will remember the conversations that made you nervous. And you will smile because you never gave up. Before ending today's episode, I would like you to answer these questions in English. What is the most important decision you have ever made? What daily habit would you like to build? What dream are you working toward today? Where do you want your English to be 1 year from now? Take a few minutes to answer these questions. Do not worry about making mistakes. Just speak. Every sentence makes you stronger. Every new word brings you closer to your goal. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I hope this story has inspired you to continue your English journey. Remember, your future is not built in one day. It is built one habit at a time, one lesson at a time, one conversation at a time, and one decision at a time. Thank you for being part of this journey. Keep learning, keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.